Myself, Dr. Mohammad Mujib Khan. Here I am presenting the paper chromatography. That what is a paper chromatography? What is the principle of it? Then how we can implement this technique for the practical purpose that we can learn over here. So first we need to be understand who introduced this technique. So Martin, Constant, Gauguin, and Singe have developed this technique in 1941. The basic advantage of these techniques are that it needs a very less instruments, efficacy is more, and we can carry out this separation at a micro level. And with the technique can be used for identify for the separation of homologous isotopes, isomers. The basic principle of this technique is based on the partition chromatography. Okay, the separation of chromatography based on the partition coefficient phenomena. In that technique, we need to be measure the RF value, that is the retention factor, that can be calculated by dividing the distance traveled by the solute and distance traveled by the solvent. The basic factors which affect on the RF value are the solvent system, which we are using for the separation by the paper chromatography, the temperature of the surrounding, the paper which we are going to be used, that is the quality of the material of the paper, and how much distance we are carrying the solvent to bring the solvent front, and the quality of solvent which we are going to use, and the technique or the method which we are using for the development of chromatogram. There are two types of paper chromatography, that paper partition chromatography and paper adsorption chromatography. Basically we need to select a particular paper for the carrying out the paper chromatography. It means it should be have the high percentage of alpha cellulose, it should have the very low content of minerals. Then basically it may be coated with that of ammonia, lefolic absents. The papers are cut in the shape of rectangular or square shape. Generally we use a Wattman paper number 31 for carrying out the separation. For the preparation of paper, you need to cut the paper into desirable size. This is a very important step, that is a preparation of sample. Preparation of sample is the sample is prepared by using same solvent which is going to be used as a mobile phase for carrying out the experimental procedure. So we need to prepare the concentrated sample. This technique is very important for that is application of sample, because if this technique is not carried out by properly, so we will not get the proper separation by the paper chromatography. So the generally we use a micro syringe or glass capillary which is used for the application of the sample. So sample is applied from the at but from 2 centimeter from the bottom of your selected paper. Then for the over concentration of the sample, we need to apply the sample in duplicate, triplicate. Once you applied the sample, wait for some time, the sample solvent get evaporated, and after that, after that, it will get evaporated, and again on the same place you need to be apply the sample again. So it will give the more concentration at one place at the site of application of the sample. The solvent generally we use on the basis of the polarity index, that which solvent is having the how much polarity. So generally we go from the polar to the non-polar level. The highest non-polar solvent is n-hexane, and highest non-polar is n-hexane, and the highest polar solvent, that is the water. So we need to be use a proper proportion and proper solvent for the separation of the component. The tank which here we use for the separation of papers are made up of the plastic material, or maybe of the uh, stainless steel. Aluminum is generally avoided to avoid the corrosion by the solvents. This is a glass chamber generally we use for the carrying out the separations. So for development of chromatograph, we need to fill the solvent in the chamber. Then we need to carry out the chamber saturation by applying the soaked filter paper in the same solvent by which we are using for the separation of components or mixture. There are various techniques for the development of paper. That first descending technique means you need to apply the sample on the top of the paper, and the paper will be the mobile this technique the techniques are divided on the basis of the flow of solvents. So you are flowing the solvent from the bottom to top, top to bottom, or two-dimensional, or in the circular form, or it decides us which techniques we are going to use. So descending chromatography, we need to flow the sample. We need to flow the solvent from the top to bottom, as shown in the figure. Ascending technique is generally used, which is very well and common, and it gives the more result as compared to the other techniques. That is, you need to apply the sample at the bottom of the paper and dip the paper in the solvent in the chamber, and the movement of the paper will go. The movement of the solvent will go from bottom to top. This is a hybrid technique that is called ascending descending. The next technique is a radial or disc chromatography, in which we use a radial shaped paper, and the need to cut the paper from one side to the wick can be used made of the cotton material like a diya, which we use for candling the light. So that wick is placed in the bottom of the paper, and one end of the wick is dipped into the solvent which is used for the separation of the component, and through this wick the solvent will spread around the paper and it will carry out the separation. After the development of the paper, we need to dry the sample. So drying can be carried out in the sunlight, or maybe carried out in the oven if is more temperature is not present in the surrounding. The next technique is detection. So once a chromatogram is developed, we need to identify the separated component. So there are various methods. There's a physical method. You need to place the sample. You need to place the paper in the iodine chamber, or you can see the separated component in the UV chamber under the 254 to 365 nanometer wavelength light. There's a chemical method. There's a particular chemicals or reagents are used to identify the samples, like ferric chloride, then anhydrine generally used for the separation of amino acids, then drag and drop reagent for the alkaloids if present in the herbal compounds, and 3,5-dinitrobenzoic acid used for the cardiac glycosides. These are the examples of reagents which we use. Then after detection technique, we need to carry out the evaluation of chromatogram by means of qualitative analysis or quantitative analysis. In qualitative analysis, just we need to compare the RF value which we have got practically, and that RF value is compared with the reference RF values. And in the quantitative analysis, we need to measure the area of separated components, that how much area got recorded after application of the sample, and through this we can find out the quantity of the material or quantity of the component individual separated from the mixture. So that's all about the paper chromatography. Thank you all.